It's been an interesting week. We've spectacular own goal by Sean Fielding this week. You've seen the letter I put up, completely ignoring the controversy surrounding himself and his own party, members of his own party that have breached lockdown. He's written a letter to the leader of the Conservatives, John Hudson, to complain. And more of that immediately after we start properly. But unbelievably. And I keep using that word because I have no other words to use for this matter. He's used official Oldham Council letterheaded paper to send out a letter complaining to others about the behaviour of two young parish councillors. Parish councillors don't get paid a penny, unlike Sean Fielding, unlike the leader of the council, who was caught out taking a holiday. Unbelievable.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. On the 20th of November 2003, James Ignatius O'Rourke McMahon was elected councillor for the Failsworth East Ward of Oldham. Deeply ambitious, he ruthlessly rose to power, and by 2011 he was already leader of the council. In 2015, exploiting a Labour Party loophole, he became MP for Oldham West and Royton. If only the people of the town knew then what they now know. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. Arood Shah, Abdul Jabbar, Sean Fielding, Shisha Bars, Riaz Ahmed, Buying Sweets, Chohan and Mushtaq, Land on the Cheap, Dr. Carolyn Wilkins, Under Attack, Another No Comment, Shabir Ahmed, Glodic Baths, Debbie Kashmir, On the Run, Don't Dare Complain, They'll Call You a Racist Son. The cartels control the postal votes and the paedophiles run free. Welcome to Oldham, home to corrupt councillors and their childhood criminal friends. And in control of it all, at the top of the tree, Jim McMahon, the samosa nibbling MP. Still silent on how he used the funeral of the butchered soldier, Lee Rigby. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them. Cartel Town. Grooming gangs. Postal vote fraud. Paedophile protectors. Still barefaced lies. Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
Hi, so this is where we're up to. If you can, please share this transmission as much as you can. We had close to 7,000 people last week viewed it when I checked the numbers, so that's still very, very remarkable as far as I'm concerned for what's going on. And please share. And if you can, my friend Moyab always asks me, if you can, please donate £1 to the Patreon page, £1 a month. Help us keep this broadcast going and help us keep bringing you news. Well, I call it news that others won't do. Well, the Oldham Chronicle and the Manchester Evening News most definitely won't do. So let's move on straight to this letter and let's try and make some sense of what's gone on here. Okay. I'm hearing that parish councillors get paid expenses. Of course they get paid expenses, but they don't get paid tens of thousands of pounds. They're not like Jim McMahon when he was leader of the council and the best part of £100,000. What Sean Fielding has done here, you've got to understand the context. Number one, Sean Fielding is ignoring all of his own indiscretions that were unlawful at the time, indiscretions that involved ignoring government advice and heading off on holiday. But here we are, writing a letter to John Hudson. Now, you've got to understand why he's written a letter to John Hudson, specific to these two young councillors, parish councillors, Luke Lancaster and Max Woodvine. Both of these lads, and I'm not a Tory, anyone who knows, who's been following any of this knows, I am as far away from a Tory as you're going to get. Let me just see if I can bring this up so I'm in the corner. Yeah, there you go. So I'm not a Tory. Nowhere near am I a Tory. But these two lads, I've been following them. I've been following them because I think they're heading up what is a conservative resurgence in this town. The young lads, the local lads, they volunteer in the community. They go to the local church. They're out and about doing things, and they're a new generation of conservatives. And really, if you look at how the Conservatives have got to a position of where they've been advocating on behalf of the victims of child grooming, it's not come from John Hudson. Nah, it's come from guys like these two. So what Sean Fielding has done here is he's gone after these lads. And he's gone after these lads by using official letter-headed paper. There you go. What a disgraceful man he is. Because Sean Fielding, in order to have done this, will have been snooping on people's social media accounts. Now, the problem I have, and the problem that the Information Commissioner's Office has now, is that it's come to light that Sean Fielding has been using official council resources. His council have been using their time to snoop on the social media posts of the citizens of our town. Okay? They have, and I have it in writing, they have admitted to it, they have been using taxpayers' resources to snoop on the posts, the social media posts of people of this town. And when people have been posting or liking things that Sean Fielding does not like, Sean Fielding has been writing to their employers trying to get them sacked in his capacity, clearly in his capacity as leader of Oldham Council, because otherwise who would have anything to do with his complaints? I have a full list of people from all walks of life who have been victims to this form of malicious bullying and intimidation by Oldham Council. And my understanding is that these individuals are in the process of suing not Sean Fielding, but suing the council. So you and me, the taxpayer, will end up having to pay for this disgraceful, despicable, disgusting behaviour of a council leader. Shame on him. And here we go. Look at this. His mate, Angela Rayner, Sean Fielding, on that date at that time, it was unlawful. This was a criminal offence as far as anyone's concerned. There's two councillors and Angela Rayner. Apparently, they were out on a litter pick because the 8 Bells pub that they were outside admitted to it. This was pre-arranged. It was great to have the support of our MP council leader and a local councillor this morning who attended to assist in the clean-up following last night's antisocial behaviour. Angela Rayner just provided a quick update. Blah, blah, blah. Look at her. You don't go out on an emergency litter pick with your dogs. You're pulling 2 dogs around. What are you going to use your hands for? Don't. And your dogs? Won't they be walking on glass? This is nonsense. This was electioneering. This was a political activity. A political activity that the police really should clamp down on. All of us people who have been threatened with £1,000 fines or £10,000 fines and are now starting to ignore what's going on. We're starting to ignore what's going on because this moron and his mates not only have got away with it, this is what they had to say. Their desperation amuses me. I saw the chap in the black Lexus taking the picture. That's why I smiled for it. Sad. That's right. He smiled. He smiled because he was caught in an unlawful activity. And then he This goes back to his typical behaviour. No problem. It's nice to have an excuse to get out of the house. That isn't food shopping. Yes, Sean Fielding. You did this, and now you're sending a letter on the council's letter-headed paper to complain about two lads? Why aren't you referring yourself? Because the Oldham Labour Party, in classic Oldham Labour Party style, posted that when he was doing all of this, the cases were dropping. The cases weren't dropping. Look at the 30th. It's at their peak. You can see they've broken the law. They got caught out. But these people, as we all now know, think they are above the law. They think they can do what they want, go where they want to, do whatever it is that they want to. He is pathetic. He is a bully. This is nothing but bullying. Writing on official letter-headed paper to people who work in schools, to people who work in universities, trying to ruin people's livelihoods, accusing them of being far-right supporters and Tommy Robinson fans when they're nothing of the sort. And they're having to be investigated. These people are being investigated because these complaints aren't going in by ordinary people like you and me. They're going in from the leader of Oldham Council. This man needs to be sacked. He needs running out of town. Him and his girlfriend, who is arranged to have a job, or someone arranged for her to have a job way beyond her means and capabilities in Andy Burnham's office. And this is what they are doing. The contempt they hold the people of this town with. It's unbelievable. And of course, here we have something else. Like every bully I've ever known, bullies can't deal with people their own size. Abdul Jabbar is far more powerful than Sean Fielding as a councillor. So when Abdul Jabbar broke the rules, something that's allegedly been investigated by this woman called Elaine, who's the Labour Party chief whip, Sean Fielding had nothing to say. Absolutely nothing to say. You don't need to see me anymore. There you go. So, this is Elaine Taylor, Labour Party Chief Whip. Labour Party Chief Whip Elaine Taylor, when are you going to rein in your boy Sean Fielding? Or is he alone to himself and you're just in your position before him and Jim arranged for you to be in your position? When are you going to do something? Or are you able to do something? Are you just in a position like that dozy mayor I see every council meeting who clearly hasn't got a clue what she's doing? Come on, Elaine, are you going to do something? No, you're not going to do anything, which is why you and the rest of your Labour Party lot are going to be cleaned out of this town sooner rather than later. Sean Fielding could do better by explaining to us why Martin Judd, his mate, has disappeared from being a councillor. Not a single word from Sean on that. Not a single word whatsoever. Sean could also explain to us, and this wasn't from me, I have no idea who this person is, but it was sent over to me. But I've heard this and a number of potential suspensions of Labour Party councillors in Oldham. And apparently the Labour Party head office is refusing to deny these suspensions. Is he suspended? I have no idea. But surely the leader of the Labour Party in Oldham would know and could issue a simple statement. He's either suspended, and others like him are also either suspended or they're not. And if they are suspended, well, one can only speculate why. Which brings me on to John Hudson. Why do people think Sean Fielding sent that letter to John Hudson? Is it because he knew this would help John Hudson regain control of the Conservatives in Oldham, so it once again becomes a nodding dog to Sean and his Labour Party chums? Because let's face it, that's all the Conservatives have been in Oldham for a very long time, until this new generation of young councillors and activists came along. Is this Sean Fielding conspiring behind the scenes with John Hudson to try and get the Tories back in line, back behaving as they used to behave? I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is it's very, very strange. So one of the I call them a team. One of the people who posts on Facebook. There's quite a few of us now. I think most of you I can see on the side here, but there's quite a few of us now. Wrote to the Conservatives, and apparently you've been told to watch this space. Watch this space. Nah. The only space you're watching, or we're watching, is how the Conservatives, how the senior leaders in the Conservatives are trying to wrestle control back of their party in Oldham and take it away from these young lads and others like us who care about what's happening in this town. So I think that's where we're up to. That is where we're up to. That letter was tactical. It wouldn't even surprise me if Hudson knew about it beforehand and could use it to make sure Woodvine and Lancaster do as they're told and sit down and shut their mouths, whilst no one from the Conservatives second Brian's motion. I spoke to Brian this morning, and Brian Hoban has sent a draft motion across to the Conservatives. The problem he's having, one of the problems he's having, is the people from the Conservatives who are engaging with him won't even put their names to their emails. So that's one of the problems he's having. And the draft motion he's put together is neutral. There's enough in that for the Conservatives to look at and say, okay, we want to change this, we want to change that. Brian's clear. And I agree with Brian. Brian's clear that the draft motion needs to come from him rather than the Conservatives, so it becomes non-party political, where the Labour Party or the Lib Dems won't just vote against it because it's from another political party. Because we want these councillors from all of our parties to see this in a way where it's beyond party politics. And, we want them to vote with some integrity rather than be colour blinded and vote according to a party. So we'll see what happens. We'll see if Brian makes any progress with that. But the motion's gone. For all of you who've been asking me, the draft motion has gone. I have seen the draft motion, and it's completely reasonable. In fact, it's very much in keeping with the letters that the Conservatives have published and put into the public domain. But I think there's something else going on there now. I think the Conservatives are looking for a way out of not supporting, not necessarily not just supporting Brian, but the Conservatives are looking for a way out where there is not a recorded vote, which means that the councillors get away from having to make a decision in public that we all know and we all can see as to which way they vote, whether they continue to vote to protect paedophiles or whether they call in the Home Office. And we'll find out. I'm not hopeful. I'm genuinely not hopeful this will happen in the way we want it to happen, because I genuinely now think that a deal is being done in the background. Let's have a look at some of your comments, and we'll move on, because I have a guest on later, and I've got to give him a call. And you know what happens when I make phone calls? Things usually don't work how they're meant to, so that might take a minute. But let's have a look at some comments. Yes, Rocky. Hypocrisy. Yeah. Yeah, it is. They are pathetic attempts at bullying, aren't they, mate? Yeah, that's how I see it. using letter-headed paper. It reminds me of it's good mates with Angela Rayner, isn't it? And it reminds me of I'm just trying to get the right camera. It reminds me of Angela Rayner when she didn't get those Star Wars shoes, and she used parliamentary letter-headed paper to write to the manager of a shoe shop to get some minimum wage kid on in bother. And of course, what she did was wrong. It was against the rules of Parliament, and she didn't get punished, but she should have got punished. And yeah, okay, brilliant. If Brian's put it on Facebook, you've all seen it, and if you've all seen it, you can see Brian's doing his best, and we'll see. I am hearing, Alison, Keir Starmer and those that lead the Labour Party are genuinely worried about what's going on in Oldham. Now, I'm hearing this from a number of sources within the Labour Party. I still have connections in the Labour Party, regardless of how much they currently despise me for what I've done. And I'm hearing that Keir Starmer is worried for a number of reasons. Because one is because of his own historical failings with Jimmy Savile. And these are failings he had to publicly acknowledge and apologise for. So we all know about those issues. But more interestingly, for the Labour Party, they have aspirations of reclaiming what they refer to these red wall constituencies. Now, Oldham, both the Oldham constituencies, Angela Rayner's constituency, is seen as a strong red wall. They're all seen as strong red wall constituencies. But if the working classes mobilise, if people start to recognise what has been taking place in towns like ours, this pattern is actually being replicated in northern towns across, northern Labour Party towns all over the place. And the consequences for the Labour Party are just unimaginable. They will lose more red wall constituencies as a consequence of these exposures, because they're in trouble. They've been dividing and ruling our people for a generation, and they've been playing on the politics of poverty, and this is where we currently are. And they hate what we're doing. Absolutely hate it. Anymore. Yeah, these young Tories have got balls, unlike the older ones. I agree with you. I think these young Tories are they're the ones who forced this. We can all see. They're the ones who forced this, what's taking place. And Sean Fielding's attack is very predictable. And, I'm not particularly, have an opinion. If they broke the lockdown rules, which they maybe shouldn't have done, or they shouldn't have broke, but it's become a mockery, hasn't it? These rules are, no one can keep up with them. Nothing makes sense once you start to analyse it. And it's increasingly clear to more and more people that when our politicians behave, and those who lead our town behave in a certain way, how do you think the rest of us will behave? The example has got to be set by Sean, and it's got to be set by Angela Rayner, and it's got to be set by Abdul Jabbar and Jim McMahon and all of those. And if they're not following the rules, why should anyone else? So, So, I have got on later this man called Peter Brown. Now, I don't know if any of you have met Peter Brown. If you've been to the town hall council meeting, you probably will have met Peter Brown. But I said I'd give him a call about 7:30. I've only spoken to him on the phone a couple of times, but it was only after speaking to him that I understood who he exactly was. So he comes from this video. So I'm going to play this. Video, and you'll see you'll hear his voice, because he's the one who's really giving it.
Let's not put the link for.
Thank you.
Mrs.
My question is, can the council please tell the residents of Oldham why an independent investigation into the historic ruling has not been sorted out and it's now used?
Cover up. Cover up? Covering up child abuse. How disgraceful is that?
You shall. I don't know how you do. Don't look at it.
It has been reported to our MP Debbie Abrams that I, a member of the public, don't want to read on social media the sanction of a murder. I don't want to read it.
Head in shame, lady.
Lewis.
Peter, how are you doing?
I'm not so bad. Good evening. How are yourself?
I'm very well, and look at that, it worked. I pressed some buttons, and here you are, straight after your performance.
You're getting good at the job. You're getting good at after all this. I hope the council learn from everything we do, because the mistake after mistake, cover up after cover up, we're getting fed up.
Peter, I've put up your letter that you forced Debbie Abrams to send on your behalf to the House of Commons. Okay, So I've put that letter up. So for me, you're a campaigner. You're a campaigner, and I'm introducing you as a campaigner. You've been doing this for much longer than I have, Peter, and you've been doing it with a group of others. And I have nothing but admiration for you guys. And I've yet to meet you in real life, have I? We've never met. I know we've spoken a few times, but we've never met in real life yet, have we?
No, we haven't. No. The clip I heard when on the phone, where I shouted out, "I don't want to read the sanction of the murder," it's absolutely true, and that was the first things that I said when I met with Debbie Abrams. I said, "I don't know who's telling the truth here, but I know from my experience over the last 3 years that Oldham Council, you can't trust them. They deceive, they lie, they collude, they conspire against the public. What the public don't realise is the cover-up that goes on." I just hesitated a bit there because I'd like to thank all the people of Shaw, Royton, outside Asda in Shaw, outside Aldi in Shaw, Oldham Town Centre, of the 1,140 signatures in a petition, and the petition was, "We the public demand the immediate removal of elected councillors and highly paid council officers who lie, deceive, collude and cover up against the public while holding public office."
So you put a petition together, and so when did you do this? So people are up to speed. When did you put this? When did you start putting?
I think it was a year and a half ago. About a year and a half ago. It was before the lockdown. I have a paper. The only paper that came down, and I asked him to come down, was the Sean Crompton Correspondent. They do the Saddleworth Correspondent, the Royton Correspondent. And he came down and he took a picture. He didn't go inside. He took a picture on the outside where I had the petitions. He wouldn't come in. They tread very, very carefully. They're frightened, to be truthful. They're frightened of being sued. They're frightened of any wrong information that's sent their way. We did have harsh words, me and the editor, about it. The harshness, what I had was that he has done 2 stories, and he's the only paper really that has done. The Oldham Cron didn't bother. The Manchester Evening News, I even went to the Telegraph and 2 other national newspapers to look at Oldham Council. So the Sean Crompton Correspondent was the only paper that did print something.
And this is important. This is important, Peter. I'm stopping you there, and I'll keep interjecting as we go through. This is important because until we started, and I mean we, as in you, me, all the rest of us, started using social media as a platform in the way we currently are doing, we had no voice. We often were left thinking we're the only ones who are doing this, and it's clear to me now that we're not, and it's the majority of the town feel this way. We've had enough. So what I'd like you to do is go back to how you found yourself in a position where you're putting together a petition, with such a strong petition. From the beginning. Yeah, start from the beginning. Tell people the story, because they'll be horrified.
First of all, in social housing, first choice owns property. They wanted to impose service charges such as lighting in the stairwells, that when they built the property, they didn't put external windows in, so they didn't bring natural light in. It had to be on 24-hour lighting. Wanted the cleaning of the stairwells when I moved in. We were all decent tenants. We looked after one another. And we had a rota up ourselves that we cleaned our section every month. And that's where it was. So when Oldham Council sold their homes to First Choice Homes, there were another chief executive on another fat salary other than ours of the council. Now, you can't keep on doing this. You can't keep paying out hundreds and hundreds of thousands of pounds for chief executives. So I asked for the assistance of my Shaw elected councillor, Lib Dem. You'll know of him. It was Rod Blythe at that time.
Wow. So you went to Rod Blythe asking for help?
As I should have done.
Yeah,
I went through the proper channel. Because I didn't know anything untoward. I didn't know the Lib Dems hated me like poison because I stood again on once. I thought, we're adults here and we should be treated like adults and respect one another's view. So anyway, I approached him and I said, can you get me a meeting with you, if you can, with your present, to the chief exec of First Choice Homes? Yep, I'll do that. With over a period of 7 weeks and a meeting of him 3 times, he lied to me. He lied and fobbed me off.
Okay, so
anyway,
that's a strong word, and I use that word often, I find myself now, but it's still a strong word. He lied to you, yeah?
Yeah.
You're saying he lied to you. This is a serving Oldham councillor at the time, lied to you.
Yeah. Anyway, so I gave him the option. I saw him on the Saturday walking his little dog, and the full council meeting was on the Wednesday. And at that time, I'm 66 now, so we're probably talking 2.5, 3 years ago. Never been into a council chamber, and I said to him on that Saturday, Rod, please let me know within the next few days, no later than Tuesday, please. Are we going to get this meeting? Never came up. So I'd never been to a council meeting in my life, and I marched up. And I sat in the chamber, and the reception said, can I ask what you're doing? I just want to sit in the public gallery. Who are you? So I give him my name. I'm just phoning up. I said, hang on. Anybody can sit in the public gallery. Oh, yes, but I just want to make sure that you can go up. Anyway, I went up and a couple of blokes come to me and they said, are you submitting a question? And I never answered. And they said, coming to the start, you haven't submitted a question, you won't be able to ask out. So I just shrugged my shoulders. Anyway, I listened to, and it was the old gentleman. He's passed away now, unfortunately, and he was, I think it was the mayor there. No, he was the leader. No, he was the leader, I think. No, he was the mayor.
You'll have
been
the elderly gentleman. Yeah, he'd been the mayor. Okay.
Yeah, it was the elderly gentleman. And after the public questions, I let people speak, and I pipes up from the public gallery. Councillor Blythe, will you give me now the day and the date that I've requested a meeting with the chief executive for First Choice? Will you give me the date? Now, please. Well, he shut up. And all the Lib Dems are gawping on, and all the other councils. So the mayor says, I'm sorry, you can't interrupt. I said, no, I'm sorry that I have had to come up to this council when we elect councillors to do this job for us. And when they renege on that job, and we have to undertake this issue ourselves, it's a very sad state. So, no, I'm sorry that I've had to come up and overrule you lot. Anyway, he says, I'm sorry, you can't continue. So I just kept saying, will you give me the date, Councillor Blythe? Give me the date.
It's not a difficult question, is it? I mean, you're asking something very specific. Yeah.
I mean, he'd had 7 weeks, Razia, to get back to me. No, I don't know what they were playing, silly beggars. This is politics, a stinking, filthy, dirty profession in today's time. One of the lowest of the laws. And that's national and local politics. We're showing and we're seeing what they are. Anyway, the mayor said, "I'm sorry, you'll have to be you'll have to be removed." So they sent a gentleman across, and I said, "You put one hand on me, and I'm going to deem it as an assault." And
Hold on. Because you spoke up in a council meeting, in the public gallery, sorry, I don't mean to demean you in any way, but you're not a 30, 40, you're not a strapping bloke, yeah, and they sent someone over to manhandle you out of the public gallery. That's what you're sharing with us.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So I stated to the gentleman, "You put one hand on me, and I will deem it as an assault, and I'll defend myself." So he backed off. All hell broke loose. They shut the meeting, and then the deputy chief exec spoke up, and she said, if you leave the chamber with me, Mr. Brown, I am personally going to sort your problem out. So I threw my hands up in the air and I said, "Help's all I wanted, and I'll come out with you." So nobody escorted me out. Nobody threw me out. I went out on my own accord after being invited out by a deputy chief exec. We went downstairs, told the grievances. Within 12 hours, I had, before that, I said, "Councillor Blythe, you should have answered me, not the position of a deputy chief exec. You should have done this for me." Anyway, within 12 hours, phone call, and it's one of the main men at First Choice Homes. We arranged a meeting. An Coldham councillor, Labour councillor from Failsworth, he came up because I asked the Lib Dems could they attend the meeting with me. They were my elected councillors. No, both Councillor Gloucester and Sykes said that no, we are both working and we won't be able to attend. Well, it depends what people think are working. It was a national conference, and they'd gone down to national conference. So they'd gone down there, chit-chatting, plain silly beggars, in my opinion, with local politics and all this carry on. And I asked, on the spur of the moment, an independent councillor, it were independent, for Failsworth, and he came up. So we had the meeting. I then made a formal complaint against two councillors. One was a UKIP one, and one was Rob Blythe, Lib Dem. I thought, and this is what's important to the people listening.
I'll put your case reference number up. I'll put your free FOI stuff up now. So, yeah, you carry on.
Yeah, I thought that when I made a complaint against councillors, that it would be done properly. Far from it. The lies, the deceit, the collusion and cover-up continued. When a member of the public makes a complaint against a councillor, they send the forms, and it states on that on no account will your name or your details be held from those two councillors. Under a strict medical exemption, that it would cause you mental upset, worry, fear, that your name will be withheld. Well, I thought, I've spoken out, I've nothing to be frightened of. And no one should ever be frightened of speaking the truth. That's what we must remember in this day and age.
Absolutely.
We have to fight our ground. We can't rely on the political system as it is. So we have to fight our own corner. Anyway, they brushed it under the carpet. No action to be taken. I asked a councillor who Paul Ericks mentioned, and it was ex-councillor Stephen Hewitt, and I asked him to ask Stephen Williams, and he was the elected chair, why they didn't take any action. Anyway, he was umming and ahhing, and he said, leave it with me. Now, what the public don't know is that when you make a complaint and they try and brush it under the carpet, those those councillors who I complained about refused me to see their replies. They lied. They both lied, and I wanted to know what other lies they had wrote against me. So I asked. Both councillors refused, and according to the borough solicitor, they were allowed to refuse.
He's a disgraceful man. Paul Entwistle? He's an absolutely disgraceful man.
Yeah,
I can't,
Paul
I've yet to meet him, but I'll give him a piece of my mind when that day comes. He's a disgraceful man.
Well, he'll keep himself nicely tucked away from you, Raja. He won't want to come in contact. Anyway, so made the complaint, brushed it under carpet. Next minute, it was the Austins, and Debbie Abrams was sitting, I think it was second term, and it was in Saddleworth. And I was doing a protest outside. Anyway, at 8 o'clock one evening, Councillor Hewitt phoned me up and he said, I've had a word with the man who was sat on the chair, Councillor Steve Williams, Labour, and I asked him, why didn't you take action against those two councillors? And the reply was, they knew a councillor had probably lied, but they hadn't got the money to take it further.
Hold on.
Now,
So they knew. So the council, the councillors who sit above, the standards committee is the term, I think, yeah? They decided that you were right, these councillors had lied, but their excuse was they probably didn't have the money to take it further.
Yeah, but this is where the self-regulation and the absolute stink of the matter, and why people like you, me, need to speak up, why all those 1,140 signatures, we've had enough. Now, when I pulled the borough solicitor up, Paul Entwistle, and I says, I believe it's come to light. No, he said, that's wrong. That is wrong. Well, I said, how do you know it's wrong? Well, he said, I were there. I said, but your name isn't on the agenda or the minutes.
What's he doing there? What's he doing there?
Exactly.
What's he doing there?
Exactly. This is exactly it. This is the sneakiness. This is the downright scandal of everything that they do. It's a downright scandal where they breach their own codes of conduct for openness, transparency and honesty. Now, I'll just say here, but the main thing was that the declarations of interest on both papers, Oldham Council's heading, agenda and draft minutes, standards hearing, subcommittee, Thursday, 19th of January, 2017, 3:30. And declarations of interest. There were no declarations of interest received. And then on the meeting agenda, declarations of interest. There were no declarations of interest received. Now, it come to my light, nearly after 3 years of protesting in Oldham, Town Centre, outside the Civic, weeks on end, booking weeks on end off work with a megaphone, and there'll be some council staff listening, they'll looking at it. There will be elected councillors still looking on to see what we're up to. We're opening it up. And to all those councillors who are listening, this is openness, honesty and transparency, something that you need to take a damn good look at and act upon it.
Let me stop you there for a second. Let me just tell you what happened there. So because I've got a comparison I think that you'll find useful. I don't think I've even shared it with you. Is this. When I complained to the Standards Committee about Arooj Shah and her endorsement of my murder, and to do with the issues of Gelato's Ice Lounge and the rubbing out of a declaration of interest, and then running around and doing some other stuff when it was brought to attention that if she was the only director of that company, then she wasn't taking the profits. She was a shadow director and such a thing was unlawful. I complained. This secret standards committee, of councillors met in secret. I got a letter back from Paul Entwistle or one of his sidekicks saying, I can't do anything else. That's it. We found nothing wrong. Oh, and then what happened? My details my details were used by Arood Shah to send a letter from her lawyer threatening to sue me. Now, I did not give Arood Shah my details. I filled in a standard, a complaint form with my details. They had no right to pass on my personal details to Arood Shah to intimidate me with a letter from her lawyers. And when I wrote back to her lawyers telling them this, I've never heard anything back. But I've gone to the Information Commissioner's office, and this has been played out in the same way things are being played out for you, Pete.
Yeah, well, you were sent a letter because I went through a solicitor. Well, first of all, I withheld the council tax because it was so strong. I withheld a proportion of the council tax that goes towards councillors' expenses only. They sent me to Tameside Court. So I had to go down a week before, didn't know where the courts were, out of my comfort zone and go into a court. Now, I asked the chief exec, Dr. Caroline Wilkins, and I said, you know what's going on? Why have you covered it up? I said, I'm withholding the council tax. And coming down the steps from that one of the council meetings, she said, look, Mr. Brown, they won't listen to you. Pay. You can get yourself in debt. I said, I will not pay. I'm not paying into this. She said, they won't listen to you. So anyway, I phoned a couple of solicitors up, and one of them said, of course you will be allowed defence. He said, now you can't write to the court. You can't say anything until you're being escorted into that courtroom and you said to the court bailiff, I want defence. So he said to the courtroom solicitor, he'd like defence. She said, when she said, you stand there, you'll listen to me first. I know you'd like to speak. You'll be allowed to speak, but you will listen to me first. Well, the thing is that she gave me a right dressing down. I won't say she didn't. How wrong it was for me not to pay the council tax or miss any proportion. Wrong it is not to pay on time. It goes towards schools, education, elderly, blah, blah, blah. Missed out the remuneration that goes towards councillors. Tried to make me feel, guilty for not doing it. And my first opening words to her was, wrong. You talk to me about wrong. When we've had 3 councillors in Crown Court, with 2 undergoing police investigation. There's 1 on the child sex offenders register. There's been more than that since Raja.
Yeah.
It's come to light there's been more. This is what had happened at that time. Anyway, I said, as a courtroom solicitor, what's right and wrong? I said, listen, I'm prepared to pay, but I'm not paying anything into this corruption. We shouldn't have to be forced to pay any proportion of our council tax that goes towards these people. So there were a bloke from Unity Partnership. He was a decent guy, really. I just figured, Fred McGlade? Might have been Fred McGlade. We're a decent chap. And he said, if Mr. Brown pays, I will help him to take a more legal route. I did. Anyway, he said, after a fortnight, he contacted me, I know what the problem is. I know you took 2 councillors to a standards hearing. They both refused you to see their replies. They were backed by the borough solicitor that deemed it not to be in the public domain. So I used to shout out when I were protesting, can you hear me, Mr. Entwistle? Since when have the people of Oldham been asked what part of any information be withheld from them? It is not for you to say what's withheld for the public domain. It's us. We vote you in. Well, we vote the councillors in, and I believe the positions of chief exec and all this come from the councillors.
They do.
They then vote them in, but we vote the councillors in. Anyway, it's all like a click. Anyway, I'll cut short because I had to go twice. I did it twice. But on this first time, he says, make a subject access request so the Oldham Council release all your data to you that they have on you. I did. What did they do? Just like you, Raja, they lost it. And I went direct from the advice of a solicitor and reported it to the ICO myself. I've got papers on my lap here.
I've put it up. I've put it up. Your data protection complaint. I've put it up. The case.
Yeah, well, I'll
reference.
just read it out.
Yeah, read the bit out you want. Yeah.
Our decision, it would appear that Oldham MBC has not complied with their data protection obligations. This is because they have not kept your personal data safely. And what I sent them was an energy bill, name and address on, private usage, what they forecasted I'd use energy for 12 months, my driving licence, photocopy, with my age, any endorsements that would have been on, thank goodness there wasn't. But that, I picked up a leaflet from our police station, that's all they need for the first steps of identity fraud, and they'll lose it. They'll lose it. But regarding why I started and got in contact with you was, right at the beginning, where you heard me shout out, I don't want to hear or read anything of a threat of a murder to a member of the public, naming an high-profile member of Oldham Council. And that's what I've gone through Debbie Abrams for. I don't know if you've put that letter up.
I have. I put Debbie's letter up, and I think
Yeah,
it's
well,
worthwhile you sharing with people how you know, the challenges you went through to get Debbie to do a job for you. You know, because she didn't want to do it.
I had a phone call. I had a phone call off her a fortnight ago. I requested a constituency phone call. She does get back to me, no doubt. You know, she does get back.
Good.
And I think you mentioned I was the gentleman that she said you're a dangerous man.
Yeah. So so I didn't make that up, did I? You know, she told you.
No, you didn't make it up. No, you didn't make it up. And I said, dangerous for what? Dangerous for what? We've got councillors who lie and deceive. We're backed up by the big council officers. Where's the danger here? The danger is not to the people who are fighting the case, rightly so, for the child grooming and the rape of children. What about the elderly when they may ask for help? What about the elderly when they ask for help and they expect things to be done? But we're going back to the two councillors that I made the complaint about, and to my unknown, me and my mate, an ex-squaddy, he's spoken up at full council meetings, and we went into the Crompton Community Centre nearly 3 years after me making these complaints and uncovering up, only to find, and I'll repeat again, the Standards Committee took no action against those two councillors. There was no declarations of interest received. And yet nearly 3 years down the line, another Shaw, Lib Dem councillor, we videoed him. He had no objection to be videoed. He openly says, to whom you're going to show this truth? You're trying to trip me up. You won't trip me up. But there was nothing to trip him up. But what has come to light is, and Debbie Abrams was shown this footage, and I says there were no declarations of interest received. And yet, Councillor Gloucester, friend of Rob Blythe, colleague, worked together, of the same party, he sat on my panel without declaring a conflict of interest. And I said, there was nothing in the paperwork. There were no declarations of interest received. He said there was. I said there wasn't. He said there was. I said there wasn't in my paperwork. Sneaky again, Raja. It didn't have to be in the paperwork, this Lib Dem councillor said. It didn't have to be in the paperwork. He says, Gloucester, to the other councillor, Dave Murphy, I asked the borough solicitor, was it right that I sit on this panel against my friend, my work colleague? We're of the same party. Is it right? And the borough solicitor said, yes, it was, because he was judged by his peers. absolutely disgusting.
Yeah.
You've got all that lot up there, all that lot. I don't know the people that have come in. When I pleaded and I spoke out, I said this isn't for the people who have just been elected. This is for all the councillors who have let this carry on. Shame on you all. I said, now, will any councillor stand up and fight when a member of the public makes a complaint? We can't continue to have this. Not one.
Well, I'm going to share something with you now, Pete, because it gets worse. I'm hearing, and I think by now people can decide whether what I'm hearing has any accuracy to it or not, but I'm hearing that in addition to changing the council's constitution, so first of all, they had 30-minute questions from the public, then they reduced it to 15, and they pre-vet all the questions and changed the order and stuff, so that they only answer what they want in the way they want. In addition to that, they've changed the town's constitution to prevent questions being asked to do with the conduct of a councillor. So you can no longer do that. And to make matters worse, they're currently passing through rules, or whatever it is they call these things, that prevent the likes of you and I going into the public gallery to protest. So that's what they're doing. There's no democracy here. These guys applauded the Black Lives Matters protest, and they did. They went on their knees and put their fists up and shared. Arud Shah still has the "I can't breathe" strapline on her Twitter account. So it's okay for people with Black Lives Matters to protest, but it's not okay for people in our town to protest about the grooming, gang rape and corruption and all of that sort of stuff going on. Absolutely disgraceful. This isn't a democracy.
It isn't, and that's why I've demanded that Debbie Abrams writes to the Right Honourable Robert Jenrick to get me a meeting via phone call, or even before this lockdown, I asked Marcus Jones.
I put that letter back up. Has that happened yet? Have you had a response from Robert Jenrick?
No, nothing. But Debbie said a fortnight ago, she said, because of the COVID, and I fully understand, that issue really takes priority, I'm sorry to say. I wish it didn't. I wish we weren't going through that, but they've got a hell of a job on them, and I fully understand. But what I'd like the people listening in to understand is that it's my elected Labour MP. She's wrote to the Minister over Local Government, Housing and Communities to address the serious concerns. Now, if we don't get a reply, either through Debbie Abrams or a phone call to myself, then what use is it voting?
Yeah.
Going back to the Conservatives, when I was speaking out, John Hudson, and I shouted out, John, I'd like you to help me. And after 6 phone calls, I got once, put the phone down, I'm ill. And he put the phone down, I'm ill. Well, I know he's been bad. I know he's been treated for cancer. There are other people being treated for cancer, and they carry on and they do their job. If he was still an elected councillor, he should have got back. If he's not fit enough, he should have resigned, in my opinion.
He should stand down. He should stand
down.
Yeah,
he should have resigned.
Yeah.
What I will say is, can I read the letter that I wrote to the Prime Minister on the 6th of June 2018?
You go for it. Absolutely go for it. I'm looking at the listening figures, and the listening figures have stayed where they are. In fact, they've gone up since you came on. So you go for it, Pete. I wanted you on because I'd seen you on the videos and stuff, and until I heard your voice, I didn't know who you were. So I'm sure it's the same with many people listening in. So you go for it.
Right. 6th of June 2018. Dear Prime Minister, it is with great sadness and anxiety that I write for your help regarding Oldham Council, councillors and officers. Serious breach of the Council's code of conduct to me when I ask for help. This has resulted in lies, deceit, collusion, cover-up, a closing of ranks towards myself and other members of the public. I ask Prime Minister that you undertake a full investigation into Oldham Council's way they undertake complaints against Oldham Council and councillors made by members of the public. When I submitted my reply to the government's consultation regarding standards from elected councillors and mayors, approximately 200 people from Oldham took the consultation forms from me. Did you know about the consultation?
No.
Regarding the sex offenders from the government? Did you ever get to know Roger?
No. Did I? I'd have told you if I did.
I got the load. I asked Stuart Young of the Committee on Standards in Public Life at Fry Building in Oldham. I said, we never got to know. There were only half a dozen, if that, or only 2 of the council officers knew about it. Well, I said, you can't have a consultation that isn't open. You don't get the result. Anyway, there were 200 from Oldham sent it off. And it says, I and my MP, Debbie Abrams, Oldham, East and Saddleworth, wrote to Marcus Jones, and he was a Conservative minister for local standards regarding, at that time, to be strengthened, as I am sickened and frightened with his reply. And I felt that Marcus Jones sidestepped his duty, this is all word to the Prime Minister, and passed it over to the Committee on Standards in Public Life, who can do nothing, only consider my letter about the complaint. This generic reply has also sickened and frightened me, as I sent 22 letters in support of my complaint. I will not lower my standards to that of Oldham Council. And David Cameron said, when the MP's expenses scandal was in the public domain, that we need to mend our broken and damaged society. And Marcus Jones said, councillors, this is the point. Marcus Jones, that government minister, 2018, stated that councillors hold an important position of trust and authority, and we need to hold them to the highest possible standards. There you are. So for people who are standing, and I can understand, that they want to change things, but in my book, that statement is for the electorate. We have got more power than anybody. We've got more power than anybody. We vote them in. And I'll repeat it again. Marcus Jones stated that councils hold an important position of trust and authority, and we need to hold them to the highest possible standards. I wish everybody that's standing, except from all these 3 main parties, and I wish them all the very best. But what I would like to see is when they get elected, do they have to sign something? Because when the mayor tells them to shut up and sit down, they seem to shut up and sit down. And I would like somebody to say, no, we're not. You don't close the meeting, you keep it running. You don't close your cameras off, you keep them rolling. And I have been here, put in place to represent the constituents who voted for me. But up to now, none of them really are. And, like I say, I wish them all best, but I don't know what's going to happen. But as for the Lib Dems in Shaw, I hope they see this. I hope you're happy with what you do. And shame on all the Labour. Shame on all the Labour councillors when I ask for help. It's absolutely scandalous what's going on. And it's like I said, I can understand the child grooming, but what about all the others? And have I got time? I can see a gentleman. Have I got time to read another letter?
Yeah, sure. Go for it. You go for it. One more.
Right,
one more. I think one more, definitely. Go on.
Right. This was to the Chief Executive, the Borough Solicitor, the Leader of the Council, and all councillors. A protest has been booked in with Oldham Police on Saturday, the 22nd of July, 2017, 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. in Oldham Town Square and in the centre of Oldham regarding 2 Oldham councillors, 1 Lib Dem, 1 UKIP, for which when they asked for help, they just lied and deceived. My question may have shocked some of the councillors present, at the full council meeting last Wednesday. And so this protest is to inform the public what I have found to have gone on when you make a complaint against these councillors or any Oldham councillor. Apologies from these two councillors would have stopped all this, and the people of Oldham need to know, can we trust our councillors and our council? We cannot have rogue, vigilante councillors lying and deceiving to the public when we ask for their help. The reply from the council leader to my question on the Wednesday, the 12th of July 2017 was, in my opinion, very misleading to the public. You're aware of it. You've heard what they said. You know, they pre-warned, they scripted. You've got a very solicitor to make sure that they word everything right, because that man's job isn't for us. It's for the credit of that council and to hope that the accreditation of that council remains at all costs. The council leader and all others who have let this issue get to this stage should be sacked. To all councillors who represent the people of Oldham, please attend, listen, talk to me, so nothing like this ever happens again. A cover-up is being done to safeguard this council, in my opinion, and people in public office should represent the people and not bicker among themselves, trying to outdo each other's party while the public suffer. And there were 3 of them sent in.
I've got nothing else to say to you, Pete. I mean, I look at this and I have nothing but admiration for you. I have nothing but admiration for you because, you know, you're just an ordinary bloke who, until 18 months ago or something like that, had never stepped foot in a council chamber. And, you know,
never mind going court, lad.
Yeah, never mind going court. Yeah, and never mind going court. And you rolled your sleeves up and you said, no, I'm not standing for this. This isn't a democracy. And
I didn't vote, Roger. I didn't vote for this. I didn't vote for this in local politics, and I'm sure as hell voting ever again if the Right Honourable Robert Jenrick does not undertake a full investigation into Oldham Council. Yeah. And what I'd quickly like to say is, the people listening in, please write to the 2 elected MPs. We know people have got different views. You can criticise that view. Do what I did. You'll put the letter up, I'm hoping, that Debbie Abrams wrote to the Right Honourable Robert Jenrick on my behalf. And what I'm asking for, write, even all those who are standing, please write to your MP. That's their job, to represent us. And you ask them to write to the Right Honourable Robert Jenrick of a threat of murder, an alleged cover-up of child grooming with an Oldham council, a threat of murder, and you want a full investigation by this government because it were a Conservative Localism Act that allowed the all councils up and down to conduct their own inquiries, everything. And what they've done is they've given another set of teeth to wolves to rip us apart.
Yes, absolutely,
so
yes.
Get everybody to write to their MP, whether it be Debbie Abrams or Jim McMahon, and you ask for a copy of that letter like I did, and we can waiver it. We can waiver it in front of them and say, when they come knocking, what use is it voting for Conservatives? They've done nothing. They were against the main counterpart, Labour, but you've done nothing. You're feeding us to the wolves. And on that note, I'll let somebody else take over, Roger.
Pete, a pleasure. I wanted you on since the moment I saw you standing up in the council chamber. I thought, who is that man? And now, not only do I know, there's hundreds of other people who know who you are as well. Absolute pleasure. And hopefully you and I will meet in a council chamber when they can drag us out, because I'm going to turn up. You're going to turn up.
And if ever you want us on again, just ask us.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. You're a breath of fresh air. I thank you very, very much.
Good night.
Thank you.
Safe. Good night and keep safe.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Just a break and we'll come back.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.
He's amazing, isn't he? He's absolutely amazing. Yeah. So, that's what we're up to. Yes, Rocky, they've got too much power. So much that they feel confident of getting... Yeah, they can do whatever they want. That's what it's been like, hasn't it? You can feel it. You can feel it. I mean, he's... Absolutely, yeah. Question that came through earlier that I saw come up. I think I want to try and respond to. So my understanding is when I first started exposing Oldham Council in the way I did, they put together a special team in the council. So this special team in the council are monitoring social media posts and doing background checks on people who posting and commenting, and clearly what's taking place is, in my position, my understanding, is actually unlawful. So that's what's going on there. Yeah. I've got to put this up. Yeah, what a man. Yeah, he is, isn't he? He's a guy, never been in court, never been in a council chamber and said, no, I've had enough. His business has suffered, his life has suffered, but he's done the right thing. And he's done the right thing for the right reasons. So, let me get back to this. I want this. I'll just put this on here like this. And sweep in. Okay, a bit of ridicule for you. This account, I blocked a guy called Neil Wilby. You'll remember Neil Wilby was referenced by Sean Fielding a couple of weeks ago in his council meeting. Now, my information is Neil Wilby is ill. He's not mentally well, but, I blocked him. But this is another one of his accounts. So all of us in Oldham are now known as Raja's Rabble. I apologise. You neither belong to me, and as far as I'm concerned, you're not rabble. But to do with, because we objected to the councillor Fielding and his friend and Angela Rayner ignoring lockdown rules, and because we refused to be silent on the grooming and gang rape of our children. Now, unfortunately, I'm not public school educated, and maybe I'm not as sophisticated as Neil and his friends, but that doesn't make me rabble, and that doesn't make any of you rabble. But here's Neil, mentally unwell Neil. This is him this week, so that's, well, maybe I shouldn't be surprised. After all, Sean Fielding is the man who shares his sexual fantasies on Twitter and wants his girlfriend to rip his underpants off with her teeth. So maybe two peas in a pod. I need to reference this place again, 146 Wernethall Road. There's a guy called Charles. Charles has posted on here on the side. I met with him this week. He's done an amazing amount of research, and he also kindly donated some money. So I've bought something called a cloud lifter that sat next to me. So if my sound is clearer than it has been in the past, it's because of Charles. So thank you, Charles. But 146 Wernethall Road, there is a massive scandal here. Absolutely massive scandal here. We're just putting together the finishing touches on this. It's been sold by Oldham Council to a local businessman after they did something with a trust that originally owned the building. And it's as dodgy as anything else has been dodgy in Oldham. And we have the paperwork, and we will go through it line by line. I'll probably do it on that blue board I use so people can understand each of the stages that the council has gone through. But it is, wow. And I'm going to finish on this bit. I am still wittering, Sean. Although wittering is not the word I think. I don't think wittering's at all suitable, Sean, and I'm going to complain. I'm going to complain to the Standards Committee, because what I am bringing to public attention is corruption in the council. What I'm bringing to public attention is the cover-up of paedophile politicians. And what I'm bringing to public attention is the council failures on the grooming and gang rape of children in our town. I don't consider these matters to be trivial, because that's what the word wittering means. I know English is a second language to me, Sean, but I'm clear on the meaning of that word wittering. It means trivial. Go and look it up, you moron. And that is me kind of done, I think. I'm just going to put up any last, I said last time, any last statements, any last questions, anything that people want to share with me before I finish for the evening? Yeah, Gary, unhappy people should volunteer to stand for the council, but it's hard. It's hard when you get a letter to your boss at work saying he's a racist or is this or is that, and you end up suspended or investigated. This is a scandal that he's doing that. And there's more coming on that. Yeah, I am going to keep going, Karen, because this is my town and they've tried their worst and they've tried their best, and I still find myself here doing what I'm doing. So on that note, I will leave you with something that Pete said. Can we trust our council? And can we trust our councillors? Because that's where we're up to. And now, when you look at this man, when you look at what he says about child abuse, he shouldn't be a councillor.
Do not fear them. Do not fear any of them.